Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, Fei. So, welcome everyone. I'm so excited. Welcome to the Blooming Life series. This is the first one we are having this year, and it's titled From Fear to Focus, Defining and Ditching Your Fears to Accomplish Your Goals. So, when I said make sure you come in with your notebooks, with your pen, with everything, I meant it because you're about to go through a school. And at the end of this session, I know that you're going to get so much insight that will help you and make 2025 a different year for you. And so thank you to everyone who put in the chat where they are joining from. I saw people from, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Maryland, Boston, and all of that. So welcome. So before we go ahead, let me introduce myself. I see familiar faces and I also see, names that, I don't know. So there might be people who don't know me. My name is Elizabeth. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I do have a PhD in health economics and outcomes research, along with some other, degrees along the way. So in my 9 to 5, I am currently a senior manager, global health economics and outcomes research in a pharmaceutical company. And this is one of the various hats that I wear. I'm also a certified life coach and the founder of the Blooming Life Initiative. Right now, you're currently on the platform of the Blooming Life Initiative. I'm also the convener of the Fireplace Gathering, which is a ministry expression that I host to ignite the souls of people and just draw hearts to Christ. I'm a Christian, by the way. I'm also the founder of an NGO operating in Nigeria, which is the Dr. Elizabeth Ibiloye Foundation, where we are advancing the United Nations SDG 3 and 4 goals. So, which is around good health and well-being, and number 4 is quality education for all. So, just a brief introduction into the Blooming Life Initiative. Some people know what this is, but for some people who maybe you saw the video, you saw the flyer, and you're wondering what is this about. The Blooming Life Initiative is a platform that is set up with one clear mission, which is to empower people to overcome challenges, thrive after trauma, rebuild after adversity, and bloom into the most significant version of themselves. It's based on the belief that everyone can flourish irrespective of their story or their background. And so our goal is to be part of these change agents in the lives of people. And we do this through a multifaceted approach. First, through courses and programs. For example, the Blooming Life series, which is what you're currently in. We're going to be hosting various series as we go through the year. So please stay connected. I'm sure that some links will be put in the chat for you to connect with us as we go. So you have everything you need. I think the admin, please put in the chat the links to the Blooming Life Initiative platforms where you can stay connected with us, where you can also subscribe to our email list so that you're constantly kept abreast of our series. We also have the Fearless Forward Mastermind, which I will talk about later. It's an exciting program that we host where we empower people to rise out of fear and step into audacious living. And we have the Rebuild Life Academy. The Rebuild Life Academy is our course and community-based program for women who have experienced divorce or are navigating its challenges. And we provide mentorship, coaching, emotional support, and a network of like-minded women so that this category of women can rebuild their lives with clarity, courage, and a sense of purpose. So please, admin, can you just put in the chat, links for people to sign up for the Rebuild Life Academy, Fearless Forward Mastermind, and all the other offerings we have. In addition, we have mentorship and coaching. So we have personalized one-on-one mentorship and coaching programs where I mentor people one-on-one, and also group mentorship programs, which is the Bloom Inner Circle, which is a membership-based group platform. We also use content creation through inspiring and empowering content on social media. Again, follow us at the Blooming Life Initiative as well as my own personal page. I'm sure the links will be somewhere there. And we also have community-based platform. Currently, the Rebuild Life Tribe is launching in Q2 of this year, which is our support community for the women who go through the Rebuild Life Academy. And so these are some of the, the things we have under the Blooming Life Initiative and some of the ways you can connect with us. So now to the reason you came. I want you to write in the chat, this is the year that I ditch my fears and move audaciously towards my goals. This is the year that I ditch my fears and move audaciously towards my goals. I want to see two people, right? This is the year I ditch my fears. This is the year I ditch my fears. This is the year I move audaciously towards my goals. It is so important. You see, the reason why this is so important is because for many of you here, I know that the problem is not necessarily that you don't have big dreams or that you don't know how to do goal setting. A lot of you have already been exposed to at least maybe one goal setting party, one vision boarding party. You know about one framework for achieving your goals and all of that. But the problem is that whenever you step forward or move forward in the direction of your goals, there will be various obstacles. There will be various challenges that you will face. And one of those challenges, one of the biggest one, is fear. But if you can overcome fear, then you have the capacity to overcome almost any other obstacle that you can face along the way as you go. So this is the reason why it is so important that you set yourself up with the mind that this year, I will not allow fear hold me back. I will not allow my fears to be the limiting factor that stops me from achieving my goals. So now let's define fear. What is fear? And what comes to mind when you hear the word fear? I want one or two people to just put in the chat again. Look, it's going to be very engaging. So get ready to engage in the chat. I want you to put in the chat when you see the word fear, right? When you hear the word fear, what comes to mind? What comes to mind for you? What do you see? What comes to mind? What do you think when you hear the word fear? Okay, I see the wait list has been put in the chat. Admin, I think you have the Bloom Inner Circle wait list, not the Rebuild wait list. So please. Wow. Anxiety. I love that. Unknown challenge. Failure. Someone says fear is what limits me from doing something, mostly mental. Another person said, when I hear fear, I hear impossibility. I love this. I love this. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for engaging. I love all the definitions that we have given, and there are many definitions of fear. But for the purpose of our webinar, I want us to look at this definition since we are talking about goals. Fear is a negative emotion that arises from the perceived risk of uncertainty associated with pursuing a goal. There is another definition of fear that I wanted to highlight here. I heard this as a little girl. I think the first time I heard this was actually in church when I was way younger. I was still really young, but it stuck with me that fear can be defined using the acronym as false evidence appearing real. I want us to take a note of the word that I highlighted, perceived. Perceived. And this means that while fear can occur for either situational reasons or psychological reasons. When we say situational reasons, we're referring to an event that is actually happening that has the capacity of causing fear. And when we say psychological reasons, we're referring to how you're thinking about something. And in any case, any situation where people are experiencing fear, one of these two is happening or both are actually happening at the same time. However, whether it is for situational reasons or psychological reasons. The reason we experience this emotion that we've all talked about, some people have said anxiety, some people have said torment. The reason we experience this emotion is due to our perception. Is due to how we perceive what is going on. And this is the reason why, even in situational events, right, it is possible for two people to face the same thing, the same type of situation, and one person is, not bothered. He's cool, calm, and collected. Another person is agitated, frustrated, scared, cannot even seem to take the next step. So you begin to wonder that why is it possible that two people can face the same thing, and what seems minor, what seems like nothing to one person now becomes a significant thing to another person. So that shows you that fear can be very subjective, and our individual experiences, our personality traits all have a thing to play in the response called fear that we have. And so when you understand, I think that's the first thing that I want us to level set as we go on. When you understand that fear occurs at the level of how you're seeing and perceiving things, it then makes you understand that you have the power to move beyond fear. Please put it in the chat. I have the power to move beyond fear. You understand that once you can take control of what is going on up here, then you have the power to move beyond fear. So you must first of all believe that I have the power to move beyond fear. I have the power to move beyond everything that I perceive as a hindrance, as a stop to me achieving my goals. Yes, you have the power to move beyond fear. And so now let's move on. But to move beyond fear, one of the first things is you must understand how fear is operating in your life. So we're going to start by uncovering your fear blueprint. Let's look at some forms of fear. One very common form of fear is the fear of failure. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest reasons why people do not move on, why people do not move forward in terms of their goals. You set all these goals, you have all these dreams. You're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be this. By the end of 2025, I want to have achieved this. But the fear of failure is the anxiety, like I think someone put the anxiety or the dread of making mistakes or of not meeting expectations. So this is usually due to a message that people have connected with failure in their minds. Failure means something deeper than the event that has occurred to them. And so when they think of failure, it creates such anxiety and such dread in them. Sometimes maybe it is, oh, if I fail, I will be embarrassed. If I fail, it means, my self-worth, my self-definition, who I am is a failure, right? They have tied who they are to the event. They have not been able to separate the fact that, look, failing is an event. Failure, who I am, does not mean the same as that event. And so when people have that fear about not meeting expectations, about making mistakes, then we begin to say the fear of failure is the fear that is operating and stopping them from moving forward. Another fear that stops people is the fear of success. And I think this is very interesting, because a lot of times people go like, what do you mean fear of success? People don't even realize that this is a real thing. And fear of failure, that's familiar. But fear of success, how can fear of success stop me? One of the ways that fear of success plays out is the anxiety that people have around whether they are able to sustain their achievements. So let me give you an example. You set a goal, you say, okay, I'm going to do this project, or I'm going to, launch this thing. I'm going to do this assignment, whatever it is. And then a voice comes in your mind and says to you, but if you do it, how can you keep the momentum? If you do that, then that means there'll be demands, there'll be expectations from you. And the reality is, yes, success has demands, success has expectations. But what your fear is not telling you is that you have the capacity to grow. You have the capacity to stretch. You are not a fixed and rigid being. Your capacity is not fixed. your capacity, your ability is not stuck in place. So even when you find yourself in a place where you are called up into higher responsibilities, you do have the capacity. So I was talking to someone the other day and I said, we like to talk about, harvest. I want, this is my season of harvest, my season of blessing. But I said, do you realize that even harvest, which, can be another analogy for success, has labor attached to it? So the fear that I don't have the self-efficacy, I don't have the capacity to sustain these goals becomes a limiting factor. And I want you to think about this. For some of you, it's not the fear of failure that is keeping you bound. You don't realize that what is going on underneath for you is the fear that if I put myself out there and I have a win, can I keep going? Another thing that makes people stop and limit them is the loss of relationships. You tell yourself, if I aim for something higher, if I move for a higher goal, it will mean that it's possible that I have to leave this certain relationships. I have to leave this certain lifestyle. I have to leave those behind, and we are so afraid. Later on in the webinar, we will look at how to address some of these fears, but I want to just bring it to your focus and your forefront that these are some of the things that is underlying that can limit you. Another common fear that limits people is the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment is the worry about being criticized or being misunderstood by other people. So, for example, you say, okay, I have this dream. I want to set up this, startup. I want to start creating this content. I want to do whatever it is. I have this skill. I have this ability, and I want to put it out there. But you are afraid of what people will say. You are afraid of when people say, what is our own? Who is she? In fact, personally, I've had people ask me that question. So I remember someone asking me one time, what are you? Are you a pastor? Are you a pharmacist? Are you a professional? Are you a whatever? What's your niche? I'm like, I am the niche. I am everything. I am everything. If today the expression of light within me is to show up as a coach, I will show up as a coach. And if tomorrow the expression of light that needs to comfort within me is to show up as a ministry gift, I will show up. I'm not bothered by what you think or what you believe or what what people think, what people believe, how people's perception of you. You cannot allow that to limit you. But this, unfortunately, is one of the things that limits a lot of people. They say, if I start sharing my skills, when they say our own is too much, let them say our own is too much. This is the year where you will say, it doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what criticisms come my way. I am going to move forward in the direction of my goal. Another very common one is the fear of rejection. Both fear of judgment and fear of rejection is closely connected to, what people think and what people feel. But with the fear of rejection, it's the belief that you'll be judged negatively. It's the belief that you'll be turned down or not accepted. It's the belief that you'll be excluded. It's the belief that if I decide to go for this, if I, put myself out there and say, this is what I'm hoping for. If I reach out to that person and say, okay, I want you to do this, or I have this dream and this is what I'm trying to do, they're going to reject me. And so we shrink back because of the fear of rejection. Another one is the fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown is that fear that comes from uncertainty, from feeling like if I make this switch. So, for example, someone that says, okay, I want to make a career change. I want to relocate. But instead of moving forward, they keep overthinking the worst case scenario. And so that keeps them stuck. That keeps them limited because they're so afraid that if I go forward in this direction, the uncertainty and the fact that I cannot control the events ahead begins to keep them stuck. I hope that as you're hearing this, you're taking note and you're beginning to ask yourself, what are some of the areas where these things, this type of fears have showed up? And lastly, the last type of fear that we are going to look at is the fear of inadequacy. This one is so big. It is also known as imposter syndrome. It is the belief that you are not good enough or you're not capable enough. Many people shrink back from opportunities, shrink back from moving forward, shrink back from going ahead, shrink back from going for their goals because of the fear of inadequacy. They think I am not good enough. They think I don't have what it takes. Later on, I will show you how to reframe this, because as long as you keep thinking this way, then you're limiting yourself from moving forward. Another subtle way that the fear of inadequacy shows up is the fear, is the belief that you're not deserving of success or happiness. And many people don't even realize this. This is often tied to maybe past trauma, past experiences, things that have been said to you, where you do not even realize that underlying, even though you're setting all these big goals and you're saying, okay, by the end of 2025, I want to do this, I want to be this. But internally, you have a perception that because of who I am, or that I am not deserving of this goal that I have written. I am not deserving of this lofty thing, of this good thing, of this thing that I have put in front of me. And so it becomes an underlying message. You just keep wondering, why is it that other people are able to go for these goals and you know that I have the capacity? So your issue is not capacity. You know you're smart. You know that, look, I am hardworking. I am resilient. I can do all. I can. In fact, there is nothing. I'm not lazy. But you keep wondering. Perhaps the belief that you do not deserve success or happiness is one of the things that is impacting. That is an underlying fear that is stopping you from achieving your goals. Now let's quickly run through this. What are some of the ways fear shows up? We've talked about all the different, different types of fear that, we can experience. How do you know that fear is what is showing up and is stopping you? Number one, low expectations. This shows up when people set the bar very low for themselves. They aim so low. They say, oh, they are setting goals and moving forward, but no. What they are doing is they set the bar at such a level that, in fact, they can just easily cross over it. Why? They are afraid of failure. They are afraid of disappointment. They are afraid of the pressure of performing, of the demands and the expectations. And so I want you to ask yourself, for people who experience low expectations, the issue is not that you're not setting goals. You're setting goals, but ask yourself, the expectations you have of yourself, is that the best you can do? Is that truly the best that you can do? Or have you set the bar so low? Are there things that you can pursue? Are there goals that you can pursue, but you're refusing to pursue them because of fear? It's very easy to think, well, I have all these expectations, but ask yourself, am I setting the bar at the pace, at the place, at the requisite level of challenge that is needed for me to grow and move into the next level of who I can be? Another example is avoidance. So while people with low expectations set the bar so low, you see the people with avoidance, they don't even go near it at all. They will deliberately evade a situation, right? They will deliberately evade opportunities. So for example, there is a promotion, there is an opening in your place of work, and you then evade. You don't want to apply for that promotion or that opportunity, that grant, whatever it is, because you are afraid of, one, the fear of rejection. We talked about the fear of rejection. Or two, the fear of success, right? You are afraid of added responsibilities. And you don't realize, you just make excuses and you say, oh, well, maybe another time, or I have so many things going on. You just give all these excuses and you run away from that opportunity. Ask yourself, am I exhibiting avoidance? Am I exhibiting avoidant behavior? Look, let me pause and say this here. Greatness is not a myth. It's not a thing that falls into our laps. Greatness is the reward for the responsibility that you have chosen to take. It is impossible for you to think that you want to step into greatness. You want to step into the fullness of who you are. And you want to achieve and accomplish all that you have been sent to do, that you have been created and wired to do, without taking responsibility. So the thing that you actually call greatness, whatever that means, whether it is financial rewards, whether it is impact, whether it is influence, whether it is promotion, it is the requisite, no, it is the corresponding reward that you receive for the responsibility that you have chosen to take on. So without responsibility, by avoiding things, you are also avoiding your greatness and your success. Let's quickly move on. We have procrastination. I don't think I need to dwell too much on this. People know, a lot of us know about procrastination. You delay your task despite the fact that it's important. And this is usually tied to the risk, the fear of failure, the fear of making mistakes, and also the fear of judgment. You're afraid of people judging you. You're afraid of what people will say. So you keep putting things off till you eventually miss what you could have gotten. Another one is perfectionism. Perfectionism is a situation. It's almost like the opposite of low expectations, right? Perfectionism is when people now set very high standards, impossibly high standards. People will tell you, oh yeah, I want to do that, but you know what, until I have A and B and C and D and E, until I have all of these things figured out, I cannot start. Or they will say, oh, I cannot submit that report until it looks this way. Look, I'm all for excellence. If you know me, and if you worked closely with me, you will know that you cannot be mediocre around me. You will know that the way I am primed and the way I function is excellence. I'm all for excellence. I'm all for doing things at the right level. But you must also know that when you move from excellence to perfectionism, you are no longer in the realm of growth. You are now in the realm of fear. And perfectionism stems from a need for control. It stems from a need to avoid criticism. It stems from a feeling of inadequacy. So you have a minor project detail, something that doesn't really matter, but you continue to spend so much time on it, and you delay its completion. You delay taking steps towards that goal, and you keep lying to yourself that it's because you want to do the best. But meanwhile, you are actually experiencing fear of judgment, fear of rejection, and fear of inadequacy. Another very common one is self-sabotage. Fear often manifests as self-sabotage, where people will unconsciously undermine their own progress or success. They will say, this thing is going on too good. Oh, this thing is going on too well. This thing, I don't know, something bad can happen. And so because of that, they will now start creating situations that will lead to them failing. An example is you have an interview, you have something where you need to show up. And instead of preparing adequately, you're so afraid of failure, you're so afraid of success, you're so afraid of judgment, but you then self-sabotage by not preparing adequately, by not putting the right preparation in place, just because you're afraid that you're not good enough. So it now becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you go in there and you stand before them and it's like, oh, well, it was not impressive, or then you tell yourself, well, I knew I was not good enough. That is self-sabotage. That is self-sabotage. Another thing is quitting. I think this is very self-explanatory. A lot of people quit prematurely. Look, I tell people, one of the things that doing a PhD taught me is the ability to stick to something. You will stick to one thing, irrespective of how complex, boring, difficult, painful. I spent 6 years on my PhD. Your research will get to a point where you just be like, I don't even understand again. Where am I? Where am I? But you know that the only way out, the only way to hold the badge of that goal that you have set, which is to earn your degree, is to not quit. But many people quit. They abandon their goals because they are afraid of potential failure. They're afraid of they don't want the discomfort. They're afraid of just the setbacks that they can experience. And when they not experience one setback, they say, oh, yes, I've said it. This is too much. I've bitten more than I can chew. Yes, you can bite more than you chew, but you don't quit. You go back to the drawing board and you say, okay, what can I do? Instead of quitting, you first of all ensure, look, let me balance this. There are situations where, yes, you need to stop. There are situations, yes, but you have to make sure that before you stop a thing, you have done your due diligence. You're not giving up. You have evaluated by all parameters and indices that, okay, this is no longer a worthwhile pursuit to have. Not that you're quitting because you're afraid that, this setback has come, oh, I can't do it. No, 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 no. You don't give up prematurely. So these are some of the ways that fear shows up. So as you're looking at this list, I hope you're taking note and you're asking yourself, where are some of these things showing up? The funny thing is, it is very possible for you to be doing so well in one area of your life, while in another area, you're experiencing some of these things. And this is, a signal that, look, there is an underlying fear that is limiting you. And so let's quickly run through this. We've talked about, the types of fears we've had. We've talked about the things that let you know that, look, fear is actually playing out. Fear is actually playing out in your, fear is actually playing out in your life or in your decisions to accomplish your goal. So how do you actually uncover your hidden fears? Number one, you must be curious. Self-awareness. Let me start. The long and short of it is self-awareness. Until you bring self-awareness into play, you're just living life as it comes. You're just going. You're making mistakes. You're not learning from it. Your things are happening. You're not asking, what is the why? What is the why beyond the what that I'm seeing? So you must be curious and you must ask probing questions. I put something on my WhatsApp status some days ago where I was telling them how, since I was a child, one of the things that was so clear, or that one of the traits that I had was my ability to ask why. Oh my God, I will probe everything. Why? Many of us spend more time looking at other people. Why? What is this? What are they doing? What are they doing? Come back this year, sit with yourself and probe. Why? Investigate your patterns. Investigate your behaviors. Ask yourself. There's nothing like this is just how I am. If you know that, okay, I have set these goals and I'm not moving forward towards the direction of these goals, investigate your behaviors. Why am I doing this? Why is it that when an opportunity comes, when there is an opportunity to, maybe take an added responsibility, I shrink back? Your goal, your beginning to clarity and overcoming those fears is to ask a simple question. Why am I shrinking back in this situation? Why am I saying no? Why is it that every time they ask me, oh, will you like to do this? No. Some of you, in fact, I don't know why I'm saying this for somebody. You can sing. You can sing. You are here. You can sing. And they've been trying to put you in front as the leader, as the worship leader. But every time you say no, there is a fear, underlying fear. There is fear of criticism. There is fear of inadequacy playing. But you've not stopped to ask yourself, no. You just tell yourself, oh, there are some other people who are better than me. There are some other people who can sing better. But that's not it. It's not because there are other people who can sing better. It's because you're afraid. So you sitting and investigating your patterns and behaviors helps you to then begin to see, okay, what is playing? Something else is playing. And one of the ways that I love to investigate my patterns and behaviors is through reflection and journaling. Reflection is taking time to think and ponder and say, okay, what happened today? What happened? And the beauty of journaling is it allows you to record your life experiences. It allows you to record your thoughts. It allows you to begin to create a body of wisdom for yourself. Let me explain what I mean. As a person, I probably started journaling. This is over 20 years ago now. I was still a teenager when I started journaling. I started then as, keeping a diary in quote, right? But as I've gone, my journaling system has become so complex. I have different journals for different things. But one of the things that journaling has done for me is it has now allowed me to go back. I'll now begin to read and begin to see and say, when this happened, this was exactly how I behaved. When this happened, this was exactly how I behaved. Now I can see that this is not an isolated event. This is a pattern of behavior. And by investigating that pattern, I begin to then probe it. And then I see, oh, wow, the reason I've been doing this, the reason I've been shrinking back, the reason I have not allowed myself to rise is because I've been afraid of inadequacy. And so by doing that, I'm able to then say, okay, how can I address this thing that has been going on? Also very closely connected to investigating your patterns and behaviors is also taking note and investigating your triggers and your reactions. Your triggers and reactions are closely connected to your patterns and behaviors. However, while patterns and behaviors have to do with actions, your triggers and your reactions might not necessarily be actions. They can stop at the level of your thought. So for example, you see someone who is doing something so big and immediately you think, I'm like, what's wrong with her? Who does she think she is? What do you mean by who does she think she is? Ask yourself, why am I reacting? Why am I thinking who does she think she is? That thought that you're having is a reflection of your own belief about yourself. That thought is a picture that is telling you that, look, deep or underneath beneath me, there is a fear of inadequacy going on. It can be, oh, you see someone who is aiming for something, and then it's like, why is she doing that? That is very risky. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if? It is not about her. It is about you. And it is telling you that there is a fear of rejection going on. There is a fear of judgment going on. So you think that all these things are just normal reactions, or someone says something, oh, let's contribute towards this. And immediately you're like, no, 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 no. Ask yourself, what does that mean? Why am I triggered? Then it tells you there is a fear of scarcity somewhere going on within you. And so your ability to investigate your triggers, your reactions, your patterns, your behaviors, your ability to ask why, your ability to probe, your ability to journal, all of these things come together and create a level of self-awareness that brings your fears to the light and equips you with the ability to then, push forward, to push beyond them and navigate through them. And in the last bullet point, I put employing support, getting the help of, depending on, for example, like I said, with fear of inadequacy, sometimes it's connected to trauma, past trauma, get therapy, get the help of a coach. And so before we go on, I'm going to talk about one of the programs I mentioned earlier that we have in the Blooming Life Initiative, and that is the Fearless Forward Mastermind. I love this program. It is a program that I have done for myself, and I have taken people who are closely connected to me through. It's a 4-week immersive program where you will be empowered to rise above fear and embrace audacious living. So here, we're not just talking about your goals. We're talking about overhauling you, overhauling your mindset, overhauling your identity, because for you to accomplish your audacious goals, you must embrace the audacious life. And for you to embrace the audacious life, you must leave your fears behind. You must release limiting beliefs and labels. You must begin to see a new identity, and you must begin to think new thoughts and set yourself up on the fearless path. So I think the link will be put in the chat. Please put the link in the chat to be able to join the Fearless Forward Mastermind. If this is something you're interested in, it would open February 15 to March 15. You would have guided sessions, coaching, mentorship, accountability, partnership. And if you are saying, this is for me, this is the year that I want to move beyond my fears and I want to embrace audacious living, then the Fearless Forward Mastermind is for you. So moving on, let's look at one of the tools that I love. I love this tool when it comes to overcoming fear and overcoming all the other obstacles that comes with fear. It's called the Fear Setting Framework. This framework is it's rooted in Stoicism, which is a philosophical concept about, controlling your emotions, your mind, how you think. However, this was recently rebirthed by a man known as Tim Ferriss, where he coined this fear-setting framework as a tool to address his fears headlong. He what's it called? He broke it down into 3 different pages, which we're going to walk through. First, with the fear setting framework, you define and confront your fears. Then you highlight the potential positives of your goals, and you consider the cost of inaction. You consider the cost of your inaction. So let's move on. Page 1. How do you do the fear setting framework? You have 3 pages. The first page, you draw up 3 columns: a define column, a prevent column, and a repair column. You have your goals, you have your dreams, right? We all know about goal setting. Goal setting, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then you're not moving forward. So then the first thing you need to do is say, okay, what is the worst case scenario that can happen if I take this step? The reason this is important is a lot of times we often overthink and overanalyze things in our mind. It continues to go on like a loop in our head, and things just seem to be so muddled up. But once we are able to clearly define what we are most afraid of, we begin to break the power and the mystery of fear. So you define, you say, this thing, this is an example on the other page, right? Of, say, someone who says, I want to go out, I want to launch a business. What is the worst case scenario that you're afraid of? Then the next thing you put in there is, what can I do to prevent this worst case scenario from happening? Or at least decrease the likelihood. So what does that do for you? It means it begins to put you in a seat of power. You are now proactively thinking of solutions. You have gone from being a victim of the fears in your mind to now being in control, in the seat of control, and attacking the fear. You enter into a problem-solving mindset, and you now begin to look for solutions. Look, I tell people, the problem is not answers. Answers are always available. The problem is asking the right questions. People are not able to get to the answers that they want because they don't know how to ask the right questions. Every time you ask the right question, life is obligated to give you the answer. Listen, your problem is not that there is no answer. Your problem is that you're not asking the right questions. So until you learn how to ask the right question, the moment you begin to ask, what can I do to prevent this? What can I do to or decrease the likelihood of this thing that I'm afraid of? What begins to happen is life begins to open solutions. You will find yourself online Googling, and you will see someone who has gone through the exact same thing as you are going through, or as you are trying to go through, and suddenly it becomes a framework in your hand. You're like, wow, they've done it. They've done it, so I can do it, right? Or wow, you begin to think and say, okay, this is not that bad. That thing that you're thinking is such a big issue. It drastically, reduces that hole that thing has in your mind. And because you're now proactively empowered to think about solutions, you're no longer afraid. And then the last thing is repair, right? You're able to acknowledge that, look, there are some things that I can control, but there are some things that I cannot control. And so, even in the situation or in the case where this worst case scenario happens, what can I do to repair this? What can I do to, as a solution if this worst case scenario happens? Listen, I have done this numerous times for numerous goals. And I can tell you with all confidence, the moment you do this, you break, see, every time you bring something to the light, you break the hold that it has. When you do this, you bring that fear to the light. You introduce rational thinking, because one of the things that happens when you're afraid is your rational thinking is suspended. You're not thinking rationally again. So you introduce rational thought, right? By saying, how can I prevent this? How can I decrease this? How can I repair this? And the moment you introduce rational thinking, you are able to break the hold of that fear, and you're able to move forward, because now you have something in front of you as a blueprint saying, look, even if this should happen, then I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And suddenly you find yourself very empowered and you're able to move on. I hope this is helping you so far. Now, on the second page, you then ask yourself, what might be the benefits of an attempted or a partial success? Now, you have highlighted all the fears, you have highlighted all the ways I can deal with those things. Another thing that you then do is you ground yourself in the potential positives of this goal. If I go for this goal, right? If I decide to do this thing, what can happen? So you now begin to reframe your mind. What are the positive things that can happen? So rather than just the message of fear and doom and dread and anxiety that is sitting in your mind, your mind now begins to have a new picture. Your mind begins to have positive pictures that it can latch onto, and it can say, look, okay, even if this doesn't succeed, even if I don't achieve this goal, what will happen? Okay, I can learn new skills. Okay, if I choose to put myself out there, then that means I can build new relationships. Oh, that's a benefit. If I choose to do this, then even if I don't achieve this goal, this is a benefit that can come. We don't always think of the benefit of an attempt. We don't always think of the benefit of a partial success. So if you think of the benefits that, look, even if I don't achieve this goal in the fullness, what are other things that can come to my life? You then begin to see that this your goal has so much to offer you, and it builds momentum in you and becomes a propelling force for you to move forward. The third thing that you do in fear setting is to ask yourself, what are the costs of inaction? Many times people tend to focus. I put a quote there. People tend to focus on the perceived consequences of taking an action, but do not often think of the real cost of not taking that action. Every time you're refusing to go towards a goal, you're telling yourself, if I do this, this can happen, that can happen, this bad thing can happen. You have all those, and we talked about it earlier, based on your perception. You have all those perceived consequences that may never happen. That may never, ever happen. Meanwhile, there are real costs to you not taking that action. So the fear setting framework says, create 3 columns, say in 6 months' time, in 1 year time, in 3 years' time, emotionally, physically, financially, relationally, in all of these ways. If I do not take this action, what will happen? I told someone the other time when they said, a PhD, I would like to do a PhD, but it takes too long. I'm scared. And I said, look, if you don't apply, whether you apply for the PhD, whether you do the PhD or not, the 6 years will pass. But ask yourself, if truly this is something that you desire, if truly this is something that can enhance your life, what is the cost of not taking that action? So it means, number one, the prospects that you could have after the PhD, it's costing you, right? If I say, okay, I have these skills, I have this thing that I want to start up, instead of just focusing on the things that can go wrong, right? If I take this, people will judge me. If I do this, I might be rejected. Ask yourself, if I don't apply for that grant, if I don't go out there and show up with the fullness of my skills, what would that cost me? If I don't decide to do this or do that, what would that cost me? You know what that will cost you. And so by the time you put all these 3 things together, first, defining the fears, bringing it to the light, defining it, saying, what can I do to prevent it, right? Let's go back to that page. Saying, what can I do to prevent it? What can I do to repair if it happens? So you give clarity. You break away the mystery, the overthinking, the analysis paralysis that fear brings to you. Second, you consider all the benefits of even a partial success or even just making an attempt. And then you ask yourself, if I don't do this, what are the costs of not doing this? In fact, what happens is you set yourself up in such a way that fear loses a hold. You are so empowered to take that bold step. You now have momentum gathering within you, and before you know it, you start to move forward in the direction of your goals. So now, moving forward from fear, I'm going to run through some of this quickly. If you're going to redefine your relationship with fear, you must have a mindset shift. First, we talked about fear of failure, right? How do you rewire failure? You must tell yourself, failure is feedback. I said it earlier. It does not define your worth. Failing is an event. You are not a failure because you failed. Failure is a part of success. See, everybody fails. Mistakes an opportunity for you to learn and evolve. That is it. That's just what it is. It is feedback. So you must do the work to detach your identity, your self-worth from an event. You are not what happened to you. You are not what you used, what has occurred. You, who you are, is different from what has happened. And so failure is just, you just tell it, you take it and you tell yourself, okay, this has just told me that this is not a way to do this. This is not a way to do something. And you keep it moving. Everybody fails. Look, human beings are I'm talking, this way now. People say, oh yes, you're a bold speaker, you're audacious, and I'm like, but there was a time in my life I used to be afraid of public speaking. I could talk, but when it comes to stand in front of people, I didn't want to. Until one day I said to myself, I said, wait, the people I'm talking to, they are human beings too now. They're not gods. They don't have two heads. They also make mistakes. So if I make a mistake, what's the big deal? So you must be able to reframe what failure means to you. In the case of, if your own underlying fear is the fear of success, realize that, look, nobody, how do I put it? I said it earlier, you are not fixed. Your capacity is not fixed. See, even your brain, even for people who have gone through traumatic events, one of the things that scientists have discovered is that the brain is neuroplastic. And so there is nothing that's happened to this brain that you cannot rewire. Meaning, as you are as a person, you are capable of growing. You are capable of learning. You are capable of expanding. You are capable of evolving. Who you are now is not who you will always be. And so you must remind yourself that, look, even if success now means that, oh, there will be higher demands, there will be higher expectations, I have the capacity to grow and evolve. And also visualize yourself thriving in success and embracing its benefits. Let's look at fear of judgment. This is one thing that stops people a lot. Remember, I said earlier, people's opinions often reflect their own insecurities or beliefs. When I gave the example about your triggers and your reactions, and I said, when you see someone doing something and you're saying to yourself, oh, why is she doing that? What if, who does she think she is? Who does she think she is has nothing to do with it. It has to do with you. So understand that a lot of time, people's opinion is not really about what is happening. It is their own insecurity or belief. And are you going to allow people's opinion to stop you? You must be able to put your fulfillment, your purpose higher and above the opinions of people. What people have to say does not matter as much as you becoming all you are meant to become. So place your fulfillment higher. Look, let them talk. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Let people talk. I personally have gone through various experiences where I've had to navigate people talking from truths to lies so I've gotten to a point where it's like, if I want to do something, I want to do it. Whatever you believe or think, it's your opinion. And also understand, look, people are not as interested in your life as you think. This one was a deliverance for me. I'm laughing, but it's a serious thing. It was a serious deliverance for me. Ask yourself, how many minutes of your day do you spend thinking about other people's life? You think more about your own life than you think about other people. Even when you think about other people, it's a passing thought. Someone does something, you think about it, and you move on. You're not bothered. That is the same way. Nobody is really, you're not God. Why do you think that what you are doing is what they now set in their mind and everybody say, no, nobody is that focused on your life. People are minding their own business as well. So fear of rejection. See, rejection is a part of life. It is not personal to you. Sometimes it is about circumstances. It is about timing. Everyone experiences rejection. Every no is a step closer to a yes. And you cannot give up. You cannot stop. The year before I got my PhD admission, I had applied. The year before, I applied to, I can't remember how many programs now. Some people have heard this story many times. I got rejected. I got rejected. They rejected me. And in fact, I was so, I can't even explain how I felt. Because up until then, academically, I had not experienced, that level of rejection before. If I even beyond academics, I have not experienced rejection at that level. So I said, what is this? What is happening? But I didn't give up. I didn't say, oh, I'm not going to apply again. I went back to the drawing board and I said, okay, you applied, see the way you applied, different programs. Can you focus? Can you craft your story? Can you decide what you want to do? Can you limit things? Can you create? Can you write your story better? What else can I do to set myself up for success the next go around? Instead of saying, they said no. See, if I believe in something, I will keep going. You say no, I will look for another way. The people who know me, I always ask them, what is one of my greatest strengths? And they will say it's your ability to solve problems. And I say the reason why I can solve problems is because I don't take no for an answer. For me to believe in a no, I have exhausted everything. See, even if it pains me, I will go back. I will sit down. I will feel the pain. I will allow myself grieve. Then I will rise and say, it's a lie. There's another way here. We are going for it. We are going for it. Every no is a step closer to a yes. So you don't allow the no's that you get to stop you. Fear of the unknown. Remember that you don't need to have all the answers or steps. No one knows everything. Just take the first step. Clarity comes with action. Uncertainty is a part of life. Focus on the present moment. Same thing with the fear of inadequacy. No one starts as an expert. I remember when I started my job, oh my God, I had come out from I just graduated as a graduate student. To earn your PhD means you become an expert in one thing. Now I'm in a certain way. It's like everything just looks new. I'm like, what is going on here? I don't know what is happening. And if not that I had to remind myself that, look, everyone who is currently now functioning with such excellence and dexterity that I'm seeing, they started as a novice. No one starts as an expert. So your confidence grows as you become competent. You can't allow that, because I don't know, because I'm a novice, pay the price. It is okay to look stupid at some point. Just don't stop at stupidity. Every time you make a stupid action, take it as a feedback and a lesson to say, what do I need to learn? What do I need to learn? Don't allow it stop you. So you can't allow that, I'm not, The people that you see up there, blazing, shining, they did not start that way. Focus on your progress and not perfection. How do we move from fear to focus? Embrace the power of yet. One of the things I've taught my son is the power of yet. Instead of saying, I don't know how to do, say, I don't know how to do it yet. I can't see a solution yet. I can't, because why? Every time you use the word yet, you're sending a signal to your mind that, look, there is a possibility. You're embracing growth mindset. You're saying to yourself that, look, it means there is still a way out. I'm just not at that place yet. But it doesn't mean that I cannot. It doesn't mean that I just don't know how to do it yet. So see, everywhere that you have been putting negative language, I don't know how to do it yet. Start to embrace the power of yet. The more you begin to say yet, your mind, see, the mind is such a powerful place. It begins to look for solutions. It begins to say, okay, she says, oh, she doesn't know how to do this yet. That means there is a possibility. How can you do it? So the power of yet keeps you continually looking for solutions, continually looking for growth, continually expanding yourself. Another thing is allow fear to be a teacher and a signal. I talked about it as the failure being a feedback. When you're afraid, rather than allowing it to sit as just dread and anxiety, probe it. We talked about probing. Say, okay, I'm afraid of public speaking. What this is telling me is that this is an area that I can improve. This is an area where I can learn. The thing that you're afraid of, rather than taking it as a feedback that, oh, you cannot do it, take it as a feedback that, oh, this is telling me that this is an area where there is a skill set that I'm here to develop. And so I can learn. Take it as a signal. Every time you decide to do something out of your comfort zone, fear will arise. So the fear that you feel, don't take it as a signal that, because I'm afraid, I should stop. No, in fact, embrace it as a signal that, oh, this means that I'm stretching beyond my comfort zone. Become curious about possibilities other than failure. We talked about that in the fear setting framework. When you decide to ask yourself, what else can happen rather than even if I fail, your mind begins to open. You begin to explore new possibilities. So instead of what if I fail, start to say, what can I learn from this experience? Shift from what if to what now? What if I fail? What if I this? What instead of doing that, say, what can I do right now to improve my chances of success? What can I do right now? Leave the what if I fail. What if I do? That's just leave it. What can I do right now to improve my chances? Break your goals and tasks into small steps. I think this is very self explanatory. You have the big dreams, you have all of that. See, make things as granular as possible, little by little. Do one thing after the other so that you're not overwhelmed and you can keep your focus. The next thing is focus on your why. I taught a webinar, the Nehemiah Protocol. I don't know if one of the admins, can you check? I think, if you can check on YouTube for the Nehemiah Protocol and put the link in the chat. I spoke extensively about the power of your why and why you must have a why when you want to achieve your goals. So, in fact, as a follow-up to this, I would encourage that you go watch the Nehemiah Protocol, webinar. It's somewhere on YouTube, and I believe someone will put the link up there for me. Focus on your why. Every time you focus on your why, that gives you a picture that creates momentum. That goal of the reason I am doing this is so that I can have this motivates you to crush fear. It motivates you to keep your focus and your gaze on your goal rather than on the fear you are feeling. Focus on what you can control. You cannot control the outcomes of what happens. You go, say, for example, you want to go for an interview. You cannot control the outcome of the interview. But guess what? Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of what is happening, you can focus on how well you prepare. So instead of being paralyzed, oh, what if I fail? What if they don't take me? Focus on how well you prepare. Direct all your energy instead to preparing for that experience or that interview or whatever it is that you are going for. Visualize success. Later on in the year, we're going to host a Blooming Life series called The Power of Visioning and Envisioning. Look, there is such a power that is available to you. And it is the power of your sight. And when I'm saying sight, I'm not just talking about what you're seeing. It is the power of your visualization, that thing that resides in you. You have the ability. God has created us in such a way that you can hold a picture inside of you to the point that that picture superimposes itself on your external circumstances and forces your external circumstances to line up with the picture that you're holding inside of you. Your life, I was talking to someone who I know is on this call. Your life moves in the direction of your most dominant thought. So visualize success. If you are struggling, go and look for the picture of the people who have succeeded in what you're trying to do. Be watching them every day. Be looking at what they've done. Put them as a model before you. Continue to expose yourself to visions and pictures that can help you, that picture that success. Let me give you a personal example. Again, I keep using my PhD as an example a lot. I went through so much. I had so much going on. And I was so concerned at some point, like, will I make it through? Will I make it through? See, there are days when even my why, even my whatever it is, I couldn't muster it. But you see, the only thing that kept me going, that stage, I walked the stage in May 2023 physically. But you see, in this my head, I walked that stage like 100 times. I walked that stage like what is 100? 100 is an understatement. There are days when I will be walking on the road and I will be tired. I will be in pain. I will be frustrated. But all I'll be carrying in my head, I'm walking on the road, and all I'll be carrying in my head is I'll be picturing the stage. I will go and look at videos of people doing their graduation, and I'll be picturing myself, and I'll say, yes, this is how I'm going to walk the stage. I held that picture in my head for 6 years actually became a reality despite everything that was going on. So you must be able to visualize success. Replace fearful thoughts with faith-based affirmations. I bolded this because I'm going to share some more practical strategies for us when it comes to faith-based affirmations. And lastly, take action. Take action. See, if you remember only one thing from this webinar, it is take action. I'm going to break take action a little bit more for us. Let's look at replace fearful thoughts with faith-based affirmations. So now we've talked about all these things that we should do, rationally, intellectually. I'm a Christian. I'm sure if you don't know that, you know that. But if you didn't know that before you joined, you know that by now. And one of the things that I've come to realize is that in addition to all of these tools and skills and all of these things, fear is also something that doesn't just operate in the realm of our mind, it also operates in the realm of our spirit. So you might not be religious, you might not be, but as for people who are religious, you understand that as human beings, we have our soul. Your soul is where your mind, your will, your emotions is. You are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body, right? So when we are experiencing fear, a lot of times it's a combination of things going on in our soul and also going on in our spirit. Now, as a Christian, one of the things I do is when I'm facing, what's the word? I'm going for a goal and I'm realizing that, look, I've tried to rationalize, I've tried to, but it seems like the fear just refuses to break off. Then I start to use my scriptures, right? There are many scriptures in the Bible that, talks about do not fear, I am with you, do not be afraid, I will strengthen you, all of these things. One of my favorite one is, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Don't worry, this is not a Bible study, so I'm not going to go too deep. But let me tell you, what this verse did for me was it unlocked a formula that I have used consistently in various aspects of my life. Whenever we read this verse, I've seen Christians read and they just read as a mental thing. Oh, I don't have the spirit of fear, I have power, I have love, I have a sound mind, and they move on. But what you don't understand is that these things are spiritual infrastructure. They are spiritual realities that you can enter into. Just think of it as fear as a weapon, and then you bring these three things: the spirit of power, the spirit of love, and the spirit of a sound mind. And when you bring them, they now become the tools that you use to attack fear and nip it in the bud and overcome it. Let me just highlight one and then we'll move on. If you want to hear more, join the Fearless Forward Mastermind or follow at the Fireplace Gathering, which is where, can you put the link for the Fireplace Gathering for the Instagram page on the chat, so that people who are interested in following that ministry expression can also find it out. But let me explain to you how for example, the spirit of power. I wrote here that the spirit of power gives courage, the spirit of love gives confidence, the spirit of a sound mind gives clarity. And when you add clarity, confidence, and courage, there is no fear that can stand in your way. It will collapse. It must collapse, right? Let's look at the spirit of power. Very quickly, there's a story of a man in the Bible called Gideon. Gideon, God called him and said, you're going to deliver Israel, you're going to go forward and, attack the people who were standing as oppressors. But this man was fearful. He was hiding. If you're familiar with that story, he was hiding somewhere to thresh his wheat because he was afraid of the oppressors. Long story short, by the time you now read towards the end of the story, the Bible talks about how this same Gideon that was afraid, he was, at some point, he was exhausted, but he remained in pursuit of the goal. And the goal was to get the head of the kings, of those people, of the kings who had been oppressing them. I remember reading that. I said, exhausted but still in pursuit. You would have expected that he's exhausted, he's tired. How did this fearful man go from someone being so afraid to being able to continue pursuing his goal even when he was exhausted? Somewhere in the middle of the story, the Bible says, then the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon with power. That is, there was an infrastructure called power that was put on Gideon. And because that thing was put on him, he rose in courage, and suddenly the man that was afraid and timid became the man who got the heads of the kings. So there is a way to pray yourself into all of this spiritual infrastructure, that when you bring them in, and also by engaging with the word of God, when you bring them in, fear becomes something that, it becomes a back burner for you. Now let's talk about take action. This is the last slide that we're going to look at. Again, like I said, if there is nothing else you take from this webinar, it is take action. Identify the next smallest step to take. Take action. Someone said, go deep. Go deep. Take action. See, this thing called the Blooming Life Initiative, the reason why you're sitting in this webinar today, it didn't start, this platform did not start today. The first time that anything related to the Blooming Life Initiative came to be was 5 years ago, 2020, during COVID. Some people are on this chat and they were a part of it. It was a group. I called it the Bloom Life Hub. Who was in the group? My mom, my 2 sisters, and I think 2 other people, 2 of my friends. And in that group, I started then, I would share some of my thoughts. I would do podcasts. I would organize prayer meeting. I would talk. I would this. That was the beginning of how I started exposing myself to the idea of allowing the brilliance, the wisdom, the thoughts that were inside of me to start to comfort, to start to help people, equip people, empower people. I started in that smallest step, right? Expose yourself. Look for less risky places. If you're so afraid, if I just take this big step, it's going to be so risky. Look for those small steps. That was where it started for me. Little by little, I started to get clarity as I was doing it. Clarity. And before I knew it, I went from the person who was just sharing my thoughts in quote to my family, who I know will not judge me, and 2 of my friends who I know that, yes, they also will not judge me. I went from that. And as I've continued to the point that right now I'm here, look, if you call me to speak before the President of the United States today, I'm going. I don't even need to prepare. Hey, just give me a topic. I'm going, because I know that there is a wisdom at work in me. There is a power. There is something at work inside of me. I have walked this thing through small spaces, and I have seen that, look, it is possible. And I've learned that, look, the more you stretch, the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you will see yourself doing things that you didn't even know you could do. Courageous action, like I said, leads to confidence. Do not wait for fear to go away. Fear will never go away completely. You feel the fear. That's why they say you feel the fear and you do it anyway. You feel the fear and you do it anyway. Lean into the fear. If you're waiting for yourself to no longer feel afraid before you take steps, then you will wait forever. In the middle of that fear, acknowledge it and say, I feel you, I see you, but I'm going to focus on this goal. I'm going to do it. And understand that clarity comes with action. Yes, you need some level of clarity before you start. But let me tell you, the only clarity that you need, you just need the clarity for the next step. As you take the next step will come. Some of you are sitting down here, and the thing that has stopped you, I even see somebody. The thing that has stopped you is because you're telling yourself that I must draw up a 5-year, 10-year strategic plan. Oh my God. I see you sitting and you have your papers and your strategic plan and all of those things. And you're saying, no, I must be able to project 5 years, 10 years. And because of that, you have not moved. Listen, you will not find the, what's the word? You will not find all that 5-year and 10-year plan. You will not find it until you take the 1-week plan. That's the word for you. So that's the word for you. Take the next step. You already know the next step to take. Take it. And that's why trust, and not being afraid. If I make mistake, I will learn. I either win or I learn. I either win or I learn. Action builds momentum. That's the beauty of taking action. Action will build momentum. The more you take action, the more you can take action, the more you can take action. And it is momentum that leads to mastery. You will not go from being a novice to being an expert. You must be able to take action. That action builds momentum, and momentum leads to mastery. So just start and evolve as you go. Evolve as you go. Evolve as you go. You cannot be the fully formed version of yourself, the fully formed version of that goal, the fully formed version of that business, whatever it is that you're aiming for. You cannot become the fully formed version of it as you start. Do not despise the days of small beginning. Some of you, the reason you are so afraid to start is because you don't want to be perceived as starting small. I don't understand that. That is the thing that is stopping you. Stop it. Just start. Just start. As you start, the resources, everything that you need will come. You will evolve. You will grow. You will learn. You will make mistakes. You will rise, but you will learn and you will go. So take action. Take action. Lastly, accomplishing your goals. I'm just going to recap this. Have a clear and authentic why. We talked about it. Please watch the Nehemiah protocol, like I said. Have a clear and authentic why. Set up a motivation strategy. This is something that works. Every time you create a goal, especially when you're creating a long-term goal, break it down into milestones. I put that in the 4th bullet point. But then now say to yourself, every time I achieve this milestone, this is what it is. Set up rewards, set up achievements, set up incentives for yourself. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you know what makes you what's the word? Encourage. What makes you keep going? Reward yourself for that goal. So in celebrating your progress, create a motivation strategy. People don't think about this, but it's so important. So every time you set a goal, say, what is my motivation strategy for this? How am I going to ensure that I keep going? What are the things? Because motivation runs out. Motivation runs out very fast. Very, very fast. So set up a motivation strategy that you know works for you. See and write the big picture. We talked about visualization. Break your goals into smaller milestones. Develop a strategy for consistency. If you watch the Nehemiah protocol, I talked about this. Consistency beats intensity when the function of time is introduced. If you're going for a goal that requires time to manifest, you must set up a strategy for consistency. I talked about consistency in that webinar. Create accountability systems. See, I saw this on the other day. You want to do a program. Let me see this webinar that you're in. Before I started creating the content of the webinar, I put the flyer out there. I put the flyer. So now I'm accountable to everybody who has seen the flyer. So I have to do it. Create accountability systems. So that's all that you need. That's all. That fear that has been keeping you stuck. Expose yourself to a mentor, to a peer, to someone that is serious, and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what I'm trying to do. Hold me accountable. Create accountability systems, and then that helps you to continue to move forward. Evaluate and celebrate your progress. Evaluate and celebrate your progress. No win is too small. No win. Some of you have done so much, but you're not taking time. Record. One of the things I've learned how to do. If you're in the corporate setting, you know how when it's time for performance review, they'll now tell you to write everything you've done, record what you're doing and celebrate it. Today I made, even if it's 1/4 of a progress towards this goal. I'm proud of myself. That creates a feeling within you that causes you to continue to move on. And so we've talked a lot. We've looked at the types of fears. We've looked at the forms of fears that you can have. We've looked at how fear shows up in your life. We've looked at how to, do the fear setting framework to help you move past fear. We've looked at how to redefine your relationship with fear. We've looked at how to move forward from fear to focus. We've looked at how to also accomplish your goals. We've looked at how to take action. We've talked about how to move from fear to focus. I hope this has been helpful. We're now coming to the end of the webinar. Again, I have on here the Fearless Forward Mastermind. Look, if you have sat in this webinar and you have identified that, okay, fear is one of the things that has been keeping me, and I want to move forward. If there's something I know I have, it is an anointing to bring you out. We will walk this journey together and we will uncover your fear story. You see, all the things that you don't even realize that has been holding you. We will explore the roots. We will look at the voices that continue to see. The voices that we listen to, the voices in our head are so significant and they control the way we move. But a lot of times, we don't even realize that those voices are not ours. Let me give you an example. For some of you, the reason why you have not moved forward towards a goal was because one teacher, when you were 5 years old, told you that people like you don't do that. One teacher, when you were 8 or 9, told you that you cannot make it, and you are 50. And that story is still in your head. It's still the reason why you have not moved on until you realize that that is what is going on. You see, no matter how much you set those goals, it will continue to be a story in your mind that you will not be able to break out of. We would release limiting beliefs and labels. I would teach you how to cultivate a fearless mindset, how to embrace your fearless identity and walk the fearless path. I think we have the link for that. And so with that, we've come to the end of the presentation. We are now open for questions.